Here's another volume calculation. I'll read the question, then we'll set it up and solve it. How many cubic yards of concrete will be required to pour a slab that is 20 feet by 12 feet by 6 inches thick or 6 inches high? We need to convert all of our measurements to inches. So our 20 feet would turn into inches and our 12 feet would turn into inches. Now we can multiply all of them together. So 20 feet would be 240 inches, 12 feet would be 144 inches. And if we multiply 240 inches times 144 inches times 6 inches, we're going to come up with 207,360 cubic inches. So then we can take that number and then divide it by a factor that will give us our cubic yards. That factor is going to be 46,656. That number you just have to remember. So we're going to take our 207,360 cubic inches and divide it by 46,656. That's going to give us our cubic yards of 4.44. We need to be able to calculate volume for any shape. There's a lot of irregular shapes on a job site that will need to be calculated for volume. Here we have one. It's a simple footing. It's not a straight footing. It's actually a horseshoe shape. We can calculate this by breaking it down into more basic parts. So think of this as 3 boxes put together. One box is part A, and then we have a part B that is matching boxes on both sides of this horseshoe. So that's going to be A plus 2 B's is going to equal our total volume. So let's set that up for each piece. Remember, our formula for volume is going to be length times width times height. So in the case of part A, that's going to be 13 feet 7 for our length. It's going to be 2 feet for our width of that part, and also 10 inches high. It's going to give us our cubic feet of 22.63. Moving on to part B, we'll use the same formula, length times width times height, to figure our volume. And our length of part B is going to be 8'6" minus a section of part A, which is 2 feet. So we'll subtract 2 feet from our 8'6". We're going to multiply that times 2 feet, and then multiply that times the height of part B, which is going to be 10 inches. So we will come up with 6'6" for our total length of part B. Multiply that times 2 feet times 10 inches. That's going to give us 10.8 cubic feet for part B. We're then going to multiply part B times 2 to cover both of those parts, and then add that to A. So that's going to be 22.63 cubic feet for part A plus 2 times 10.8 cubic feet for parts B. That's going to give us 44.23 cubic feet total for this entire irregular shape. Let's do another calculation for volume. I'll read the word problem to you, then I'll set it up, and then we'll solve it. How many cubic yards of concrete will be required to pour a slab that is 98 feet by 84 feet by 5 inches thick? So keep in mind our equation for volume is going to be length times width times height, and our length is identified as 98 feet. Our width is going to be identified as 84 feet, and our height or thickness of the slab is going to be 5 inches. So we will multiply all of those numbers together. We're going to end up with 3,430.27 cubic feet. If we divide this by 27, it's going to give us cubic yards of 127. Just remember, our 27 is going to be our standard number we're going to use when we're trying to convert cubic feet into cubic yards. And the reason we often need cubic yards when we're talking about concrete, you're always going to order in this specific unit of cubic yards. This video is a production of Trade Skills U, all rights reserved.